Hi everybody, welcome back to the Kimberbell Stars Spangled Beauty Ladder Quilt along. We are on the week of May 5th. This week we're going to be working on Let Freedom Ring, Star Trio, Blue Petals, and the Vase block. The Let Freedom Ring block is very similar to blocks we did last week. I'm not going to do this one on camera. And the Vase block is the same. This is a very simple applique block, so I won't be filming this one. We're going to focus on two of the blocks in detail this week. The Star Trio, this is on page 16. I'm not going to detail the stitch out. This again is just like the other blocks we've done. It's got the background quilting and the applique. However, what we are going to work through is the trimming instructions. It's an odd sized block. You have to use a couple different rulers to get the correct cut size for this block. So I'll work through this and show this in detail on camera. I have a quick note on the Star Trio block. When you go through the instructions, it talks about using a fray preventative product around the edges and allowing it to dry. This is Fray Check by Dritz. It's a fray preventative product. It's very liquidy. You only need a little bit. I didn't do this. I looked at the block and I loaded my file and I did it without any kind of fray preventative. Let me show you up close how mine looks. Here's my Star Trio block. The white had the fusible backing. The other two stars did not. But if you watched my earlier videos, I did lightly starch everything before I started. This looks fine to me. Whether or not you want to use the Fray Check product, up to you. You can always test stitch this. Take a scrap of fabric and a couple of fabric scraps and do the whole block without Fray Check. You could also put fusible backing behind every one of the stars, not just the white one. The white one has nice clean edges. The red, if you get really close, it's got a little bit of fuzzies. Nobody's going to see that. To me, this is fine. If you hate any kind of fraying or raw edge applique, you can use a fray preventative. I would say use it sparingly. My only worry is that the darker colors might bleed when they get wet. If you use the Kimberbell fabric kit and you cut according to the instructions, you've got leftover red and leftover blue. In fact, there's a funny little piece there. And there's a little piece here. You can cut off a little piece and try the Fray Check on a piece of background white and see what happens. I'll work through the Blue Petals block. This starts on page 18, step by step. Reminder, when you're doing all these blocks, make sure to check at the start for which ones need that fusible backing and the stabilizer. And for the option of the block by block quilting, which I've shown in previous videos, double check your thread color. What I'm going to do is stitch out the Let Freedom Ring, the Star Trio, and the Vase blocks, and then we'll do the Blue Petals start to finish together, and we'll trim up that Star Trio together. As you get ready to do these blocks, note here, this one has the fusible backing on all fabrics. This is your Let Freedom Ring. Your Star Trio has the fusible backing on the background and Star 1 fabric. The Blue Petals, which we're going to do together start to finish, has fusible on the wrong side of all of the fabrics. So all of these pieces need to have your fusible backing. And your Vase block also has fusible on the wrong side of all of the fabrics. This is the Kimberbell fusible backing. If this is the first video you're watching, I'll show this to you really quick. It comes on a roll. It is taped together. This is a new roll. One side just looks like plain fabric. The other side has a shiny texture. This is what needs to touch the wrong side of your fabrics. That's the fusible material. That's what makes it stick. You also need to cut your project batting when you're doing the block by block quilting. If you go to the trimming instructions at the end here, you'll see you're going to trim your block to 6.5 by 8.5. If you cut your batting 7.5 by 9.5, it'll be plenty big. Just add an inch to this final measurement on the trimming instructions. And I did show in detail how you tack down and trim your batting before you put on your background fabric in the previous video. Again, I'll link that below. I've got everything ready for the Blue Petals block. This one is on page 18 of your instructions. We're going to go start to finish with this one together. Go ahead and hoop your stabilizer Make sure it's in there nice and tight. Make sure you've used your screwdriver to tighten down your hoop. This hoop is an 8 by 12. It's larger than what I need for this. I do have smaller hoops, but I am working on a few different things and I've got projects in other hoops. We'll go all the way through the process for this. I'm on a Baby Lock Meridian. I need to load my file and it's on a USB. I need to find my Star Spangled Beauty folder. And I need the KDQ 408 6x6. That's in the instructions. Now I need to find 6x6, which is not on the first page. There it is right there. And we want to add, this is just the background quilting. Go back to your USB. Find the correct folder. Now I need the embroidery file. And I need the Blue Petals Block. It's right there. I'm going to go ahead and set that file. And now you can see that that's sitting on top of the background quilting. It's ready to go. It'll stitch everything in order. We're going to do our batting placement line, the batting tack down line, then we'll trim our batting, the fabric placement line, and the fabric tack down. There's my placement line. I want to make sure that my batting completely covers that line. You can tape it if you like. I don't need any tape. It's been staying pretty well. Just kind of push it down. Make sure you've got your coverage there. Grab your duckbill scissors or embroidery scissors, whatever you prefer to use. Trim off the extra batting around the edges, and then we'll do our fabric placement line. Next, you want to place your background fabric. Again, this is if you're doing the block by block quilting. We're going through the whole process for this block. Make sure you cover that line. There's plenty of fabric. You should have the fusible backing ironed onto all your fabrics for this block. I'm going to double check, make sure I'm over at the top. Looks good. Double check the instructions. Check the color one more time, just in case. For your background thread, this is in the pearl color. I've got the thread I'm using as pearl on my machine. You can see on the screen here, my background quilting is loaded. Let's go ahead and stitch that out. We'll go through all the steps here. We're going to start with that light color fabric. They're calling that the frame fabric. Again, make sure you've put your fusible backing on the wrong side of that fabric. It's a light color fabric going on top of that dark blue. It's to help prevent the bleed through of color, so you want to make sure that that's on the back. You should have a box on your screen like that. That's our fabric placement line. A little hard to see, but you should have a square. You want to cover that square with your fabric. Once you've done that, you'll stitch the tack down line. Take your hoop off your machine. You need to trim the outer extra fabric. One thing that's kind of weird about this block is we did all that beautiful quilting and you don't really see any of it. It all got covered up by this background fabric, and then we're going to put the flower on top of it. Go ahead and trim off the extra. We're right here, and you notice there's a thread change. This is the symbol for the thread they're calling sea green, and you'll use this for all of the placement and tack downs going all the way through. I looked at that and thought, that's kind of weird, because this fabric looks nothing like the sea green thread. However, after you've done all of your applique, the placements, the tack downs, the trimming, when you get here, you change your colors for each of the outline stitches. So don't worry about the fact that the color we're using for tack down and trimming doesn't exactly match. Everything changes when we get to this part. The next part is pretty straightforward. We want to go ahead and do each of the steps for the applique. Flower, flower center, upper leaves, lower leaves. When we get to here, we need to pay extra attention to the color changes. We're all done with our applique. Everything's ready. This is where we start changing threads. The first one, the lower leaf satin, actually is still the same thread. Then everything after that has a thread change. Let me show you what I like to do. Since the thread colors aren't necessarily always correct on my screen, and I don't go back, and you can program these and use the manufacturer name and the colors. I'm not doing that, it takes too long. What I like to do is line everything up. I've got my first thread right here for the first one, and I know at each step I'm going to change a thread. So the next one I'll use this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. And of course I have my instructions right next to me. All 4 blocks for this week are done. We'll go ahead and cut these together. There's special cutting instructions for this one with the 3 stars. Here's the one we just finished for our stitch out. I had a question on my cutting mat last time. This is an Omni Grid. It says item number 14 WGR. I got it at Fat Quarter Shop. I think you can get it at any quilt shop. It is available online. I'm going to go ahead and cut using the orange pop rulers. I showed how to cut with a regular ruler last time. For this block, we want the 6.5-inch ruler, the square. That's this one. And I'm going to grab that one, and then I'm going to grab the next size up. That's going to make it easier for me to hold the ruler. If you watched last time, you saw me make a cutting mistake, and what I did to make sure when I put it in the quilt, you won't see that mistake. You want to visually center this. You can use your fabric tack down lines as a guide. They're pretty good. They're almost spot on. Make sure you have a sharp blade. And remember, when you cut with these orange pop rulers, you cut on this side here. And there's a little room to move in these notches, so you want to slide your rotary blade all the way against the side of the ruler. Let's go ahead and cut this block. I'm double checking. 6.5-inch ruler. My instructions, 6.5-inch ruler. Everything's lined up nice and square. Let's go ahead and cut this one. You may have noticed that I would put the blade out, make my cut, retract the blade, set it down and turn. That's because sometimes if you're in a hurry, you can accidentally cut your finger. I've done it before. Don't cut your fingers. These things are sharp. Let's take the block out. That looks great, nice and square. I'm going to put this back in its bag so I don't lose it or get it out of order, and I'll be able to find it nice and easy. Let's move on to the next block. I'll cut the vase block next. It says to cut this one 4.5 by 6.5. I need to find my 4.5 by 6.5, which happens to be the smallest ruler. I am going to put a larger ruler outside of it again to give me some room for my hands. I'm going to turn this so I can see it. You want to visually center it. You can use those lines again to help you figure out where your ruler goes. I think that's straight. I hope so. This one is going to line up with the vase flowers. We're going to stitch those out next time. I'm trying to be extra careful and make sure that this is straight because it has this straight line plaid quilting in the background, and we're going to be lining this up with the vase flowers next time. Let's see how this came out. Looks good. I'm going to turn it towards me. It kind of looks straight. For some reason it looks a little crooked to me. We'll find out next week when we go to line it up with the flowers. This one says to trim it to 8.5 by 6.5. Your ruler says 6.5 by 8.5. It's the same thing. It's the medium-sized ruler, so I do have one more I can put down around the outside. Look for your fabric tack down lines. They help you line it up. You can see I kind of knocked my block out of whack on this. What do you do when that happens? Slide everything back. I can feel it touching the block, I can also take my rotary blade and run it through one of the sides I already cut. That's good. It's nice and lined up there. I'm going to double check again, make sure I'm centered, and then I'll continue cutting my block. Alright, let's pull it out. Looks good. Got my nice 90-degree corners. That's good. If you cut something crooked, go back to video number 3. I cut one of the blocks crooked in our first set of blocks, and I show you how to mark it. So when you go to put it in your quilt, it won't be noticeable. What makes this block different is the final measurement is 4.5 by 8.5. We don't have 4.5 by 8.5 ruler, so we're going to use a combination of 2 rulers. It tells us to start with visually centering the design using both the 4.5 by 6.5 and the 6.5 by 8.5 nested together. Let's grab those 2 rulers. Your 4.5 by 6.5 is the smallest, and the 6.5 by 8.5 is your medium ruler. Now you'll notice that it overlaps with some of your applique. I'm going to go ahead and spin this toward me so I can get a straight on look because I'm standing over here. I need to center it. You can use, let me pick these up real quick. You can use these stitch lines. Your fabric tack down lines are going to help you line this up. This may be hard to see on camera, but right here in the middle of this ruler, let's see, I'll pick it up. There's an arrow. There it is. See that little triangle? That points to the center. When you're centering this, you can use that to point right to this part of the star to help you make sure that you've got this ruler centered, rather than trying to figure out how much over on either side. That gets a little difficult. So line up your fabric tack down lines and then look for that arrow, and if you want you can grab another ruler and make sure it's lined up. That looks really good. You've got both of your rulers on, made sure you're centered, made sure your lines are matching top and bottom. We're going to cut the top and the bottom edges of the block shown in red. Don't cut the sides. See how it shows us where we're cutting in the nice little picture? Let's go ahead and cut that part. I double checked. I knocked it when I turned it, of course. So I rechecked my center, my top, and my bottom. And we're only cutting the top and the bottom. Make sure you're holding that down nice and secure. Bump your cutter against that side. Watch your finger. And then let's turn it and cut the top. Now I did notice that when I took my hand off, it seemed like the fabric moved a little bit. So I'm going to double check, make sure I'm centered. And that's because this block underneath is smaller than this outside ruler. So the batting ends around here. So the outside ruler is kind of domed over the block. I would recommend keeping your hand on it if you can when you turn it. Alright, we've cut our top and our bottom. I'm going to turn it this way toward me. The next step is to remove the inner ruler, and then we're going to cut the sides with the larger ruler. Okay, hold down your outer ruler, take the inner ruler out. Now I'm going to cut my sides. This is a little crooked, I can see that, but it'll be okay. I'm actually going to just move that just a hair. I want to make sure that's going to be straight as I can get it. We're going to cut our left and our right sides. I'm going to try and hold on to it as I turn so it doesn't shift on me. There we go. I should have done that when I had the small ruler. Go ahead and hold that down. Make this cut. Watch your fingers. We've got all the cuts made per the instructions. It tells you to go ahead and remove your ruler from the block and extend the cuts on the top and bottom as shown in blue. So they've got a nice picture here, right here, right here, right here, right here. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take my ruler off. And the reason they tell you to do that is you can see right here, you can't get your block out. You have to cut that little bit extra. I'm going to go ahead and grab a ruler and make that straight. There we go. And go down here. Make sure that's nice and straight. Okay. And I'll do the same thing here. And then we'll check our corners and see how I did. Alright, moment of truth. Let's have a look at it. It doesn't look bad. I'm going to double check with a ruler. I want to see if I've got a good 90-degree angle. That looks good. I'm going to check them all. This one's a little bit over here and right over there. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. It's the tiniest little bit, but I'll go ahead and clean that up. So when I go to put it in my quilt, I don't have to worry about it. I don't even know if you can see what I just cut off there. That's kind of ridiculous. Let's check the next corner. There's again, the tiniest little bit. I think that might be because I have the corner of my ruler has been chipped off. Right here I'm off. You can see that. I can see that here. That's where the ruler moved. I'm going to be really careful. Make sure I'm straight here and here, and then I'm going to get rid of just that little itty bitty bit. There we go. I can get rid of that too. Looks good. I'm going to put it in the bag, get all the bags together, and we'll go over what we're going to do next week. I've got all my blocks back in their bags. This makes it easy for me at the end when I put my quilt together. Let's look at what we're going to do next week. I will be back the week of May 12th. We're going to work on the vase flowers, patriotic home roof, and patriotic home. Looking at those in the quilts, we can see we just did the vase this week. The vase flowers is going to match up, and with the house also in 2 pieces, so everything should match up, hopefully. We'll give that a go next week, and we'll do a trial, we'll set our blocks together, and see how good we do matching everything up. And I will tell you, if it's not perfect, nobody will know. Unless you enter your quilt in the quilt competition, nobody's going to get that close to your quilt. Get your blocks done for this week. Plenty of time. I'll be back the week of May 12th. All the information, products, anything I've used is in the description box below. Feel free to leave me comments, feedback. If you want to see something in particular, definitely let me know. Let's keep working on this together, and we'll be done in time for the 4th of July. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.